With these messages, we'll be right back.
If an alien is listening to this podcast right now, come on down.
You're welcoming a probing?
I'm
I'm
not
welcoming a good probing.
Don't put words in my mouth or things in my butt. But no, I'm saying come on down.
Who said
I've got
butt? It could be your
snacks.
pee hole. Who knows?
Oh God.
We're here.
Brad.
Hey, Kellen.
Oh my gosh, Brad. Oh my gosh.
I warned you that it
You
was
did,
long.
Brad. You gave me such a warning. I had no idea what I was watching, but I am so hungry right now.
Right?
I'm so fucking hungry right now.
Tell you what, that it was delicious for about 5 minutes until it started to cool down.
Oh yeah,
and then it just
cold,
looks like a large pile of creamy vomit, and it's not great. But the first few minutes, good.
You need like 11 people to eat that
Yeah,
together.
you just need to devour it instantly.
Yes. Brett, was that your wife that we saw?
That was my wife and my child. Yes.
Incredible to finally see her in digital form.
Yes, that is a video that she made a while back when she got bored one afternoon and
What?
wanted to make a giant pile of ridiculousness.
Why not? It's delicious. And again, it goes into what our theme today is, talking about the medium that we casually refer to as TV.
Sure. Television.
Television, Brad.
The boob tube,
The boob tube,
however you want to define it.
Yeah. Again, Brett, when you said to me, hey, do you want to talk about TV this week? I got very excited. I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about television, some of them positive, most of them moderately negative. But I'm very excited to talk to you. I've got some fun questions about television. I'm very excited because we probably grew up on some similar TV shows, but also probably some very different TV shows.
Probably.
Yeah. Brett, how much TV do you think you actually watch in a week?
I mean, probably, I don't know, less than 10 hours, probably.
But so hold on. I'm not counting stuff that you watch with your kids.
Yeah, so I counting stuff with the kid, who knows? Thousands of hours somehow. The math doesn't make sense watching things with the kid.
But you probably watch about
watching
10
things for me like a few hours a week.
Maybe a few hours a week. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Are you watching most of that on an actual television, or are you watching that on a phone or on a personal device like an iPad or something?
Mostly on my computer.
Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes on a TV.
Yeah.
But it's not super common. The TVs are mainly for the kid and for video games.
Yeah, exactly. Most of the TV that I think I watch right here from this chair, or I watch on my phone. I occasionally will watch something downstairs on the TV if I want it to be bigger, right? If I'm watching like The Mandalorian, or if I'm watching like WandaVision, something that I want to look a little bit bigger, have a better sound experience, I'll watch it on the big stuff. But most of the time, if I'm watching like anime or watching like old reruns of like Scooby-Doo, I'm just gonna put it on here, multitask for a little while. So
yeah, I can't watch stuff like that on my phone usually. It's too small. I don't know. I could never find like a comfortable place to just like set it down.
Oh, that's why you got to get one of these, Brad. You got to get one of these right here. This is the thing you got to get. This is perfect.
I suppose
for the casual. Good. Here it is, right here.
That makes
perfect.
Sense.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, folks, thank you for joining us. Also, Brad, thank you for putting that together. All of the ABC, sort of outros and intros in between the commercials were so good, and instantly brought me back. I was like, I know this melody, I know all of this. It's so terribly burned into my brain.
Right, it's in there somewhere, even if you haven't thought of it in like 20 years.
It's there. It's that bad. It's that bad claymation. It's the melody. All of it. It all comes right back. So,
Yep.
Well, what do we want to talk about tonight, Brad? You got a question to start us off? I got some questions for us.
Sure. Why don't we start off, Kellen? What would be a show that you would consider very overrated?
An overrated show.
Show.
I do not find The Sopranos to be a very good show, and people love The Sopranos. But I also don't really get the sort of like Italian mobster culture, like Godfather, Goodfellas, all that stuff doesn't really appeal to me. The sort of machismo, we're going to do bad stuff to bad people, gabagoo kind of stuff. None of that really works for me. So I remember watching the first couple seasons of Sopranos and loving the writing and really enjoying the performance, but I just didn't buy into the guys. I didn't buy into these guys because they're just so comically dumb, in my opinion. And I know that they're very real. Like, I know, like, it's like the thing about The Sopranos is like how like fleshed out it is. And Tony is such an interesting sort of character. But when people talk about The Sopranos being like the best television show ever, I just roll my eyes. Not that I think it's bad. I think it does have merit. I think there are better shows out there. I think The Sopranos consistently writes women into corners, and all the men are the same and all the women are kind of like either objects or sort of these sort of post ingenue cold women who have to deal with these men, right? There are limitations for how the show kind of gets put together. The acting in it, though, is fantastic. That's the thing that makes The Sopranos so good, is everyone is so good in it, right? That you
it's
think,
very
like,
well done.
It's extremely well done. Yeah, I'd say The Sopranos. I think The Sopranos is up there. I've never really enjoyed, and this is going to be controversial, never really enjoyed Game of Thrones. I don't know why people think Game of Thrones is a good show. I think its scale is really amazing, but I don't think the show itself, but I also don't like the source material. And I'm going to hate on this a little bit, like loose, like lowercase h hate. I don't understand why people like the United States version of The Office as much as they do.
I would agree with that. I haven't even finished getting through the U.S. Office yet.
The only
of course,
time
there
I
are a bunch more seasons of the U.S. Office than the British version, but I think I'm in the middle of season 4, like that.
Yeah, I mean,
I go to the dentist, getting through it. I don't know.
I go to the dentist and it's on, and I'm like, this is perfect for the dentist. But there are people that I know who watch The Office every single day. Same thing with like Parks and Rec, and I don't understand the appeal, but I don't think there's a lot of people who are like who believe that The Office is critically acclaimed the way that The Sopranos is. So that would be my answer to your question, Brad. What about you? What's a show that you think is like overhyped that way?
I mean, The Office, I would definitely put on my list, the U.S. version at least.
Oh yeah, the British version.
I just can't stand Steve Carell, like in almost anything.
Yeah,
like it's really hard. Like it's funny. But every time Steve Carell comes on, it's just like, oh, goddamn, this guy again. Apparently he disappears at some point in one of the late seasons. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, I don't know. I also feel like Carell still plays it so charming that like people still love him, as opposed to Gervais, who is so repugnant, is so awful, that I fall in love with him because he is so awful that way, right? And like, it's the same thing with like Extras. Did you ever watch the Extras? That was the show he did after The Office, where it's like he's essentially kind of playing himself. He's playing like this guy who's like an extra, and then eventually he comes up with this really terrible sitcom and gets famous from the terrible sitcom, and then hates himself and wishes he was still an extra. It's 3 seasons. It's fantastic. It's really, really great. And then you get to see Gervais work with like Kate Winslet and Ian Kellen and all these other great actors, and it's just him doing really dry scenes, and he's really funny in it.
Nice.
But yeah, the U.S. version of The Office. The
other kind of big one for me would be Lost. Never understood why people enjoyed that.
Buddy, see, there we go. See, BJ's in the chat, and BJ's going to pop up, and he's like, "What do you mean you don't like Lost?" I love me some Lost, Brad. I literally have notebooks on my shelf back here that were my Lost notebooks that I used to take, and I would watch the show and I would write all my thoughts and my theories down. Lost is a really interesting show that way, and I've rewatched it twice after it went off the air, and each time I rewatch it, I think I like it more. I don't know why. I can't
Maybe
say.
I need to watch it again then. I don't know, but I did not understand the appeal at all. I watched the whole thing. I got through it, but because I was like hoping that it was going to tie things together and things were going to start actually building in a direction instead of you know what? Thinking about it just occurred to me that I have the same problem with Lost as I did with Hellier.
Oh,
as soon as they start to get almost to an answer, good or bad or what, any sort of conclusion to anything, they just shift and it never goes anywhere. And it drove me insane.
I get it, man. I get it. I want to say this. Like, I feel like I know why people like The Office, and I know why people like shows like Game of Thrones, right? And it's not that I don't think Game of Thrones wasn't interesting, right? I just think that Game of Thrones at times doesn't deserve the praise that it sometimes gets, right? Scope is great. Some of the characters are really great, but there are also so many things, just like in Lost, that go nowhere, that they build and build and build, and it just never happens. And so there are times when I struggle with people who are like diehard. I have 2 friends of mine, Chris and Melissa, who are diehard Game of Thrones fans. And all you have to do is mention the last season. You say, okay, well, what did you think of the last season? And they say, well, I mean, it's like,
other than that,
it's like, well, if they literally can't land the plane, what was the whole thing? I think there are some really fun characters in Game of Thrones that I really enjoy, and I've watched every single season. I hate watched the show because I wanted to stay up with what people were watching. I wanted to enjoy it, but I just think that the show doesn't. It doesn't.
We're gonna get some hate for this episode.
But here's the thing: I'll take the hate of Game of Thrones. I'm not. It's not going to be Buttergate. But we're talking about TV, Brad.
I'm with you. I mean, Game of Thrones, at least some of the characters I enjoyed a decent chunk of the time, but the overall sort of vibe, it's like whatever. Yeah. If I want to, listen to a lot of exposition while watching an orgy, there are better ways to do that.
There are much better ways. There are much better ways. Absolutely, Brad. I will say that I think Game of Thrones, has some of the stronger female characters written on television, right? Like you can't look at Game of Thrones and not say, well, this is an extremely well-written arc. Most of the women on Game of Thrones pass the Bechdel test, right? It's when they don't that the show fails, right? And it's one of those things where it's really tough to kind of be like, so many of the choices in that show towards the end is not about the show. It's about the creators. It's about they could have kept doing that show for years and HBO would have let them do it. Instead, the creators wanted to wrap it up really quick. They knew what they were doing. They knew it was a pile of dog shit, and yet they shipped it, and it's on them, right? All the actors knew. You talk to the actors, I'm sure. They knew. Okay, Brad. So if we're talking about shows that didn't live up to the hype, what is a show that did live up? Right, a show that started good and ended as good, if not better.
That's tough because TV tends to peter out rather than end in a structured, purposeful way that makes sense.
There's one that I can name.
I mean, Breaking Bad comes close.
I think Breaking Bad is my answer. I think Breaking Bad comes really, really close to.
I mean, they did do that sort of movie to kind of try to tie up some things too.
But I mean, I think El Camino is fun, right? Like it fits really well with it, but it still isn't the finale, right? The finale still is the finale, right? Because it's about Walt, right? So
that I mean, at least they knew that they wanted to end it then, and they built up to a specific conclusion. Whether you agree with those choices or not, it's going to differ. But they did it on purpose, and it wasn't just because you're going to be canceled next season, so you have 4 episodes. Wrap it up.
Yeah, it's not like
which is how a lot of TV ends.
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting about Breaking Bad is it's such a condensed show, right? When we think about Breaking Bad, it's like the first 3 seasons are like almost within like 2 years. It's just so condensed. And yet the final season, they know they got to cover so much ground that they start to lose that it being so condensed. It's the same thing that happens with Game of Thrones, right? Game of Thrones is really good because of how condensed it is. And it's not until like the later seasons where they're finally like, all right, well, yeah, then Jon gets across the world in a swipe, because they know they got to get Jon to go hang out with Daenerys because they got to fuck, because that's what everybody wants. Spoilers.
Spoiler for Game of Thrones. Tyson misquoting the movie Serenity, but I would put Firefly on the list probably. Although Firefly is very the DVD set of Firefly starts well and ends in a decent place. The actual network run was a disaster.
It's a disaster. Because the network run, they start with the third episode, and you're like, what
Something
the fuck
like
is this?
That. Yeah.
And
then they played the pilot episode like in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
It was just very weirdly managed.
Yeah.
But the story of Firefly, I think, started well and ended where it needed to end. Unfortunately, Joss is very problematic.
Yeah, I was going to say that'll be the interesting about Firefly is people going back and watching it and being like, "Is this show good? Is this show good?" Who knows?
It's strict. Yeah, that's a weird, because he writes, or at least wrote, a lot of very strong, fleshed out women, like very purposefully leaning into that direction, and he's just very problematic. It's very strange.
Very strange. Very, very strange. Yeah, man. I mean, I think what I think is interesting is like when I think about like prestige television, right? I think about Sopranos, I think about The Wire, I think about Mad Men, Game of Thrones, I think about Oz, right? I think about some of those early HBO shows that are really raw, right? Like the Wire is that way. The Wire is like really, really raw. It's hard. Like you make someone watch The Wire now, or you make someone watch Deadwood. Deadwood's another good show where like it's 2 seasons, so really good. It ends in some weird sort of places. I don't think it lives up to all the hype of that pilot. It's so good. But it's those early prestige television shows on HBO were so different from anything else. Like it's not a 3-camera system. They're actually filming in locations. They're getting actors that people don't know. They're doing some really, really cool stuff. And now you see, and that's everything, right? Nobody films 3-camera anymore. Nobody does. Well, I mean, excuse me. CBS does a lot of 3-camera stuff. Excuse me. Michelle says Westworld. I think Westworld's fantastic.
Sure.
Westworld's wonderful. That first season of Westworld is fantastic. I actually like all of Westworld. I just look at each of the seasons as like mini shows in and of itself because they're so unique to themselves. Yeah. It's a great show. I like Westworld a lot. HBO does good stuff. Good stuff.
They do. They put serious money behind people and just let them just whatever. Do your weird thing.
do more weird stuff. Do some stuff. Do some weird stuff, right? That's what they want.
Speak HBO, but in a very different direction. Flight of the Conchords.
Oh boy, there you go. But I mean, that's the interesting thing. Flight of the Conchords season 1 is so perfect. Flight of the Conchords season 2, they took every song that they had and they put it in one season because they thought there's no way they're going to let us do another season of this. Right. So season 2, they're like having to like write songs, and it's all over the place.
It gets weird.
It gets weird.
But the first season, at the very least, is almost perfect, I would say.
Yeah. Brad, what's a TV show that you love, but everyone else really dislikes or hates? Right? Like, it's tough to think about that in terms of, like, what's a show that you love? You really enjoy. Everyone just is like rolls their eyes, being like, Brad, it's your night at the house. You're like, we're watching this tonight. And your wife's just like, not fucking again, Brad. Come on.
You know what? Briscoe County Jr. The perfect television show.
Explain.
A Western. With supernatural alien elements.
Yes.
Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell's fantastic. Bruce Campbell was made for television.
and Comet the horse,
Mhm.
the super smart for some reason horse, even though it's not supernatural, it's just a really smart horse somehow. It didn't make any sense, but it was amazing.
It was amazing, right?
Every episode, they were just like, what weird shit can we do that doesn't make any sense in this world? And we're just going to cram it in and they're going to have fun with it.
I mean, there's a lot of that stuff that is so enigmatic to the time, right? Like that's like Conan and Xena are both around that same time where it's like, it's like, why are these shows, Conan and Xena are fantastic shows, despite the fact that both of those actors are extremely conservative people.
Very, very problematic.
Very problematic.
In many ways.
Many, many ways. But those shows are so good because they're so rich with all of this weird queer energy. It's so just like dripping with sexuality in the strangest sort of way. And it's these high fantasy shows. Like when you think about what Conan is supposed to be, you think like Conan's supposed to like rip people in half. And yet Kevin Sorbo is the biggest himbo in the world. And he's just like, he just wants to braid your hair and paint your toenails. And Xena is the same sort of way where it's like, she's supposed to be this, sort of warrior goddess. And she is, but there still is this sort of interesting kink queer thing that's sort of happening throughout both of these shows that is never touched on, but the subtext is so beautifully laced in between because of the directors and the writers. It's so good. Hercules, not Conan. Thank you, Tyson.
Hercules,
Thank you. Yeah. Hercules.
There's a bunch of, back then, people decided to make some weird things for TV, like
right?
not even like prime, like the middle of the afternoon. I
don't know. Yeah,
let's just do like serious sexual subtext in this ostensibly, kid-friendly family comedy adventure show. Like, okay,
absolutely. I think about this show, Brett. Brett, I'm going to pitch a show to you. Okay.
Okay.
You're a TV executive. I'm going to pitch a show to you. So, Brett, here we go. Everybody loves stories, right? Stories that are real, stories in history, stories that are fictional. And what we want to do is we want to create a kids program that introduces these stories to them. But we don't just want to retell the stories. We want to take these stories and we want to put them in the eyes of somebody that everybody loves, which is why we're pitching a show about a dog who can talk to people, who then goes into these stories like Romeo and Juliet, who goes into stories like Huckleberry Finn.
Sure.
And the dog, almost like Quantum Leap, is the character, right? So the dog falls in love with Juliet. The dog is Huck Finn. What do you think? We call it Wishbone.
It'll never sell. No one would watch that trash. What are you even talking about? You're insane.
I just love that Wishbone. There's always this, like, Wishbone's one of those other shows where like, Wishbone is playing a character who's supposed to be a man who's in love with a woman, and the kids are supposed to be like, yeah, that's normal. It's totally normal.
It's fine. It's absolutely normal. It's like
That dog fucks. That's fun.
It's like Ghost Rider.
Oh, Ghost Rider.
A kid's mystery show where one of the main characters is a straight up murder victim.
He's a murder victim.
That haunts everyone.
And that's the thing everyone believes. It's like Ghost Rider. It's like, oh yeah. And the kids, they're never solving that mystery. They're solving the small mysteries like, who stole the pencil sharpener?
Yeah. So,
oh my God.
Also, Samuel L. Jackson is in Ghost Rider, and it's amazing.
So good. So good. Ghost Rider. There's another show. There's another fucking great show. 3-2-1 Contact with MathNet. It was like the Dragnet, but it was for math. All of that stuff was so fucking weird, man.
Classic.
So Briscoe County Jr. That's your...
I mean,
it kind of is actually
a little bit.
It kind of is. Sherman and Peabody, that's another one. I mean, in general, Rocky and Bullwinkle is one of the best television programs ever composed because of all the things that come out of Rocky and Bullwinkle, right? Rocky and Bullwinkle, like today, it doesn't make any sense. I remember watching Rocky and Bullwinkle as a kid with my dad, and my dad would laugh hysterically, and I was like, I don't know why this is funny, but it's making my dad laugh, and it just imprinted here. So
I just remember having arguments with the animatronic characters in the Rocky and Bullwinkle restaurant.
Whoa, I didn't know they had a restaurant.
I don't think they still do. I'm not sure.
Was that like a Chuck E. Cheese?
Yeah, it was basically Chuck E. Cheese, but themed like Rocky and Bullwinkle. It was
Interesting.
very
Interesting. Did like Boris and Natasha try to steal everyone's pizza?
No, I think they were like in a jail cell, or at least one of them was, as an animatronic thing. Like as you were entering, they would like heckle you and stuff. Like someone, I'm sure, with a microphone, behind the scenes somewhere because they would interact. So it would have to have been a human back then. It was the early 90s.
Yeah. Oh, you got a question for me, Brad?
Let's see. What would be your favorite, just sort of tilting the topic a little bit, what's your favorite movie based on a TV show?
Firewalk with Me, without a doubt.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the easiest one for me to be like, boom, Firewalk with Me, I think is the best show that has ever the best movie that's ever come from a TV show. I think Serenity is good, despite the fact that I think Serenity should have been a season in and of itself, right? Like it doesn't. The thing about Serenity is it doesn't fulfill it being a movie, right? It's kind of just that.
Right. It's like a double episode.
Yeah, it's a double episode. That's really what it is, right? What is the first Star Trek Next Generation movie?
Okay, that's not a terrible idea. I could get behind this idea.
Ooh, yeah. I'm super into that. Ty. Star Trek Next Generation movies.
I mean, what is it? Hulu that's doing the new MODOK cartoon? You could pull off something like that.
Definitely pull off
Boris
something
and
with that.
Natasha.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Get a bunch of comedians on board and make something really ridiculous.
All right, let's concept this out. All right, so Boris and Natasha are they Russian or are they some sort of weird Nazi? Right, that's the thing about Boris and Natasha is you never really know what sort of nationality, what fascist state they work for, but they're spies from the East.
Not problematic at all in this political.
No. But that's the thing about it. Like that would actually be very funny. Is Boris and Natasha these very iconic mid-century spies who are suddenly infiltrating Trump rallies and the GOP, and these people they don't even realize what it is. What if that's the idea, Brad? It's a documentary about Boris and Natasha in terms of that's what flips everyone over to Trump. Is it's in fact Boris and Natasha sort of puppeting him into power with the rest of them, following the money, and then it gets to Boris and Natasha.
That would be pretty funny, actually.
I love that Tyson knows where Boris and Natasha are from. That's amazing.
Glorious.
So good. Yeah, I think Firewalk with Me is my answer. That would be my answer. What about you, Brad?
Solid. I don't know. There's not a lot of great ones.
No, there's not. There's really, really not.
I didn't really think of an answer when I had the question.
Yeah, I mean, there are some that I think about, the SpongeBob movie's pretty good. There's a lot of kids shows that do that very well because it's just like the DuckTales movie, for example. DuckTales goes on for a while, and then DuckTales has a movie that goes out, right? And that movie's really, really fun. But it's already a cartoon, so a cartoon TV show to a cartoon movie doesn't really.
Right. With some of the Muppet movies.
Yeah, I mean, again, Charles Grodin, R.I.P. Great Muppet Caper, fantastic movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's definitely right there, where it's all right, let's take the Muppet Show, this weird variety act, and then let's do a movie, and it becomes the Muppet movie, which is such a surreal trip down Hollywood, and almost doesn't work anymore today. Boy. Yeah. Brad, I got a little game that we can play.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you some TV titles, and you're gonna fill in the blanks. Okay.
Okay.
Let's see how many of these you know. Right.
Okay.
Let's start with the easy ones. The Blank Prince of Bel-Air.
The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Okay.
The blank $1 million man.
$6 million man,
There
I
you go.
believe.
Melrose.
With inflation.
With inflation, it's probably, around 37 at this point.
Something like that.
Yeah. Melrose blank.
Melrose Place, I believe.
The blank Diaries.
Vampire Diaries.
There we go. Monty Python's blank circus.
Flying Circus.
One blank hill.
One Tree Hill. I
Very
haven't
good,
seen that
very
show,
good.
but I know that it exists.
Diagnosis blank.
Oh, Diagnosis Murder. Dick Van Dyke, man.
Very good. Law and Order Special Victims blank.
Unit?
Yes.
That's
That's
so
the
many
one.
of those.
America's Next Top blank.
Model, I believe.
Great. Now, Brad, I want you to give me only the wrong answers. Okay, these are only wrong answers, right?
Wrong answers only. Okay.
Only wrong. Yeah. How I Met Your blank.
Baby Daddy.
Father Knows blank.
Everything.
Gilmore blank.
Oh, the real one. Just my brain wasn't working. Gilmore is happy again.
Yes.
So let's go with the reverse movie to TV show.
Party of blank.
2.
Blank. The Teenage Witch.
Kidnap.
Excuse me. I almost spelled Daddy knows about crypto.
These are good stuff.
Yeah.
How I Met Your Probation Officer.
Yes. How I Met Your blank.
I mean, probation officer.
No,
That
probation.
would
Excuse me.
be- yeah.
How about the facts of blank?
Sex.
Blank in the middle.
Meat.
Are you blank of the dark?
Horny. That doesn't even make sense grammatically. I don't know what that was.
Mission : blank.
Possible.
Leave it to blank.
I don't know. The Neighbors. I don't know. I got nothing.
And the last one, the greatest American blank.
Porno.
Perfect, Brad. 10 out of 10. Fantastic job.
Excellent. See, that's not a good call at all. Nobody needs that.
Leave it to Brad. Leave it to Brad.
Mission Kim Possible.
Mission Kim Possible, I believe,
Mission
is a
Kim
movie.
Possible.
I think
Yeah.
Mission Kim Possible is a movie. I need to check.
That would not surprise me. That sounds right. Well, that was a lot of fun, Kellen.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. A Mission Kim Possible is a robot chicken sketch. Excuse me.
See, now you're just trying to.
Very good. Very, very
problems.
good. It's never going to stop. Never going to stop.
Just because of that, we're going to commercial.
Great.
After the commercial, be right back. Hey, where's the cream filling? Now that's the stuff. Hostess.
Get out of the way! Come on!
Don't get that, Frank.
It could be the office.
Yeah, let it rain. Hello? Baxter! It's Baxter!
Meow, 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 meow,
Meow Mix brand cat food has a variety of 4 delicious flavors cats love. In fact, it's the only cat food that tastes so good, cats ask for it by name.
meow, meow, meow.
Again and again. And now, back to the show.
Terrorism, Brad.
You didn't think I had
Terrorism.
anything prepared, did you?
Terrorism to add the Meow Mix. I did not sign off of the Meow Mix ad. That is cancer for the brain, Brad.
Too bad.
Oh.
You brought this on yourselves.
Oh,
The car phone. Yeah, exactly. Like the car phone.
The car phone.
It's all
it's
horrible.
Everyone's
cancer.
going back, man. Everyone's going back.
Yeah.
Brad, here's a question for you. Unless you got one for me.
I mean, I got a couple, but shoot, hit me.
Brad, has Saturday Night Live ever been good?
I mean, the Landshark sketch was pretty good. Was what, late 70s?
I believe Landshark came in the first season. Yes.
So I mean, it was okay at some point, I guess. There have been good sketches.
There have been good sketches.
For sure.
And there have been some good...
In 40 whatever years, there's bound to be a couple of good sketches.
A couple of good sketches. Yeah.
But I can't say that I have ever really enjoyed it all that much other than what people would call the highlights. You know?
Yeah.
I could watch probably 3 or 4 hours worth of like the best of Saturday Night Live. Like that would be fun.
Oh yeah, like the Saturday Night Live, like
40 years condensed into a couple of hours.
Absolutely. If you can watch like the 40th or like the 35th anniversary of Saturday Night Live, like that best of, fantastic. Nothing but laughs.
Sure.
Nothing but laughs. So good. Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. It's like it's weird when you look at these ranks. It's like Saturday Night Live is up there, like in the top 10, and you're like, really? I don't know about that.
It's weird. There's a lot of nostalgia with that, I think, because a lot of like great comedians come out of that.
Oh yeah,
It's like a feeding system for comedy into other places.
Yes. If you are a straight white man, then you're going places if you get on Saturday Night Live.
Mm-hmm.
You're either going in a body bag or you're going to the movies. So
there's that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and it generated some good movies like Wayne's World and stuff like that. Like all that stuff started as SNL things, right? So like good fun things have come of it.
But then we got the Love
great
Guru, Brad.
on its own.
We got the Love Guru, right? Which I'm sure was a sketch that Mike Myers pitched and Lauren passed on.
Probably. It may have been better as a sketch.
It may have been fantastic.
It would have at
least
least been shorter. So
yes.
That would have been good.
Yes.
Kellen, what is a show that you think not nearly as many people have seen as should? Like, what's a show that anytime you get a chance, like, you need to watch this show if you haven't seen it?
A few come to mind. Freaks and Geeks would probably be up there. I think Freaks and Geeks is a fantastic show. I think it is a show that I think speaks to me in a lot of different ways in terms of what it was like when I was an adolescent, what it was like when I was teen. I think Freaks and Geeks is also just like so genuine. Like it just has so much heart. It feels so real. There's no artifice to it. And I think it still really holds up. Like I think if you watch like something like My So-Called Life, I think My So-Called Life seems like a cartoon. It's so over the top that it's hard. It's the same thing with like Party of Five. Like there's something about the sort of like, mid 90s sort of like experience, but there is something about Freaks and Geeks that sort of speaks to that era. And it's just right off of it, right? It's not tapping into nostalgia for that time, but it's just slightly past it, so they can still kind of gain a little bit of that momentum without necessarily feeling like they're paying homage to it in a certain way. So I think Freaks and Geeks is up there. Northern Exposure is another one that I think is absolutely fantastic. I think Northern Exposure still holds up. It's a fantastic sitcom / romantic comedy / weird, like psychological show about like existential dread and meditation and sexuality. It's all over the place, right? It is the yin to Twin Peaks, right? If Twin Peaks is the yang, Northern Exposure is the yin, right? It is wholesome, but it's tapping into that same sort of energy that Twin Peaks was cultivating, right? what's another show that I think is really, really good? Legion. I probably see Legion is another show that people haven't watched. And Legion is
really weird.
It's so weird
So
and
good.
so visual. Just the aesthetics of Legion are so. It's just fucking beautiful. It's like eating like heavy cream, right? And I get it. A lot of people watch Legion and they're like, this show makes no sense. And I'm like, it's not supposed to. It's supposed to just be visually interesting. And you're just watching this, you're like, how is this a TV show? This is crazy. And if people don't know what Legion is part of the Marvel universe, right? Because it technically is still a Marvel show. And it is about mutants in the Marvel universe. And the premise is there is a psych ward, and one of the characters there is being admitted, and the question is, does he have like psychosis, or is he in fact a mutant with mutant powers? And that's the whole first season about like, oh, are you actually a superhero with crazy powers, or are you just are you actually a threat to your own health and your safety? And it just goes from there. It's so good. So good.
So good. The aesthetic changes wildly sometimes from scene to scene.
Scene to scene. And it's just like
it's
visually, it's a show that you can't passively watch. You have to be actively watching it, right? Yeah. You can't be on your phone watching Legion because it's just, you're just like visually so drawn to it. And if you like, it's a show where it's like, I have to go to the bathroom, I have to pause it, I need to go come back. Like you have to so be present that way. And I want television that's going to do that for me. So yeah. What about you, Brad? What about you?
I mean, there's a few that I could choose from, but the one that I tend to go to that it seems like no one else has seen until I mention it is Review with Forrest McNeil.
Oh, I love Review.
So good. And no one watched it while it was on the air.
Andy is so good in that show. It's so fucking good. It's so like good.
The premise of a review show where the reviewer will literally just review anything. And it snowballs from episode to episode until his life is just in utter shambles because of the reviews that he's doing. It's so good.
Yeah.
I'm still annoyed that got cut so short, but at least they had that like 2 or 3 episode little finale season.
Yeah, and it was also one of those shows where it was like kind of ahead of its time. Like I feel like if Review went on today, it would be great. It would be a really good cult show on Hulu. But I mean, I just think Comedy Central just wanted bigger hits, right? Like that's the sort of show that like could do really well in the Adult Swim format of a 15-minute show. It doesn't need to be 22 minutes. It can be 15 minutes, right? That show is perfect as a 15-minute show. So,
or just like a Netflix thing where it doesn't have to be exactly 22 minutes every time. This one is 17 minutes. This one is 48 minutes. Like whatever is required to tell the story of that particular review. The structure of a television show kind of made it difficult, I think.
Let's talk about Netflix then for a second, right? Okay, because when I think about TV, I think about a television network like NBC or HBO making something, but Netflix makes TV, right? And I think about a show like Russian Doll, right? That is a fantastic TV show, but it sort of breaks the sort of mold of what a TV show should be, and it becomes this sort of prestige series that feels further down the road of what than HBO is doing, but it's also kind of like not TV. What do you think about what Netflix does, or what like some of these subscription services do, like The Mandalorian, like WandaVision? Like, is that television, or are these just like mini movies?
Yes.
Yes. The right answer.
Basically both. Yeah, it's ignoring the concept that there needs to be a difference.
Yeah.
It's just an experience, it's as long as it needs to be. It'll get whatever budget they're willing to give it. It's so some of them are great, some of them suck, some of them are just weird and will be really, really great for the 4 people that love it.
Yeah, I guess that's what I like that about what Netflix is doing is they'll put out like Altered Carbon, right? Like that is a show. If you talk to someone and they like Altered Carbon, they are a die-hard fan of Altered Carbon, right? And that show is weird as fuck, and it's great.
Yeah, they put serious budget behind it, even though it clearly wasn't going to go anywhere.
It wasn't going to go anywhere. And it's like, that's great that they're willing to do that because that then exists forever. And that's what's so cool about what Netflix does. I wish Netflix was our sponsor because I'm gonna like gush about Netflix for a little while. Like, because it's like they're never going to take that off. You could always go back and watch that, right? As opposed to like if Altered Carbon was on TV, that would never ever be shown again. It would be put in, they would never put it on DVD or Blu-ray or streaming. It would just be like a thing and you would never be able to find it.
Yep.
It's a bummer.
Yeah, the ever-present archive of entertainment now is a good thing for the most part, I think.
Yeah,
Even
I think
a lot of classic stuff is finally resurfacing because the production companies don't have to actually spend really any money to produce a physical thing. They're just like, sure, here, have the files.
Yeah, it's on digital.
Whatever
Here you
streaming
go.
company wants the rights, like, it doesn't cost anybody anything to be like, here, have a hard drive.
Yeah, you want to watch Blue's Clues, the original Blues Clues? Here you go. It's here for you. There you go.
Yeah.
If this is what you really need, it's here.
Yeah.
Brad, dude, did you ever have a TV show that you secretly watched as a kid?
That I
secretly watched a show that you didn't want your parents to know that you were watching? So like USA at Night.
Don't think so. I mean, back then I just watched a lot of weird British television. So
what was some of the weird? What did you watch? Like Faulty Towers and like what
was the, oh god damn it, what's the name of that? It was basically Sherlock Holmes, but he was like a magician assistant. What's his?
Yeah, there's some weird, like Red Dwarf is another one I fucking love that I used to watch as a kid a ton. Red Dwarf made no fucking sense to me as a kid. I had no idea what Red Dwarf was about.
Red Dwarf is great.
Red Dwarf is so great.
It still is. Whenever they do a season randomly every decade.
Every decade, yeah.
What is the name of that show? Jonathan Creek.
I've always heard of Jonathan Creek. I've never watched Jonathan Creek.
It was basically Sherlock Holmes if he was a magician type person. It was, but very super British, just super
British.
Yeah.
That
With
is
Alan
what
Davies.
I love about the BBC is they'll let weird creators, like Mighty Boosh is a great example of like let's give these weirdos a studio. The show is going to be on at 3 a.m. They can do whatever they want, and we're going to give them a budget, and there it is. It's on BBC Three. Like that's what it's supposed to be. Like I wish that was here in the States.
Sure. Have you ever had Baileys from a shoe?
I have had an old Greg before. Yes.
Excellent.
I had a gay woman.
That's
feed,
a good Space Coast,
Coast to the Coast. Oh my god,
good. So good.
I used to be able to do
amazing these days.
Oh my god,
because you would be able to edit so much better.
Oh my god. So if they put Space Ghost back on, it'd be fantastic. I used to be able to do Brack and Zorak as voices. I used to be really, really good about doing both of those voices, and I could do both of those. And that was my dumb party trick, is I could do those voices, and people were like, I don't know what Space Ghost Coast to Coast is. And I was like, it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I feel like there's a Kids in the Hall sketch about Canadian television about how like they're like breaking vases, and the punchline is "fuck you, taxpayer," right? Like where they're talking about like how much a sketch costs and the fact that the taxpayer is paying for it. I just love that so goddamn much, Brad. It always makes me laugh so much, because they get the whole audience to like look at the camera. They're like, "Fuck you, taxpayer," and I'm just like, yes. People should pay taxes for television. That's what we should be doing.
We still do. It's not nearly as good usually. Although, I mean, some of that funding goes to Letterkenny. So
exactly.
There's still, it helps.
There's still plenty of bad television that comes from it, right?
Oh yeah. Jeez.
So you didn't watch any shows as a kid, Brad? Okay.
I don't think so. Not that I can think of.
All right.
I've
All right.
always been very open with my terrible taste in things and not really cared. And my parents didn't care about what I watched back then.
So, Brad, give me this then. Do you want to do a Mount Rushmore or do you want to do a top 5? Do you know what Mount Rushmore is, by the way?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Now.
So, here in the United States, there's a place in South Dakota called Mount Rushmore, where the 4 quote unquote greatest presidents, Thomas Jefferson, Teddy Roosevelt, Abraham Lincoln, and George Washington, are all carved into stone.
Yes.
So
I've heard of that large rock.
You've heard of that large mountain that is actually, in fact, actually not very big. It's very small. It's very underwhelming. But what you can say to someone is like, hey, give me your Mount Rushmore of, porn stars. Give me your Mount Rushmore of, obscure Greek film directors, right? So it's the same thing as saying like, hey, give me your top 5. So if I had to say like, hey, Brad, give me your top 5 favorite cartoon shows.
Top 5 favorite cartoons?
Cartoon shows.
Futurama.
Great show. And this is in no order. You're just naming top 5.
Rick and Morty, probably,
Rick and Morty.
even though the fandom is terrible.
You got to separate the fandom from Rick and Morty. You got to. That show is really, really well done, and you got to separate the fandom. You also got to separate some of the creators from the show as well.
Yeah,
like, the show is the show.
The show is great in my opinion. Yeah. A lot of things around it not so great.
Problematic.
Undergrads would probably.
Undergrads. Wow. Talk about an obscure show, Brad. I love Undergrads.
Undergrads is great.
Yeah.
Gimpy was like my spirit animal for a while.
Yes. To Aerith Girl, yes, anime does count. And I've noticed that he said 3 shows and none of them have been anime.
You know what, though? The Pitman Animaniacs would be on
there you
that
go.
list.
Mm-hmm. New season of Animaniacs, underwhelming.
You know what? Adventure Time would probably be on there.
Oh, Adventure Time's up there.
Yeah.
I'm going to look up this anime show that Aerith put up there. Yo, this show looks hot. This show looks hot as fuck. Yoko? Nia? Yummy. I'm into this show. Aerith, I want to talk to you about the show later. This show looks fucking delicious.
Oh, Bob's Burgers is pretty good, too.
Oh, Bob's Burgers is great. Justice League Unlimited is great. Second time Tyson's brought up Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah.
If BJ was still watching the show, he'd be super into it.
It would be. What about you? What's your list?
I'd probably say Ren and Stimpy. Classic. Probably say Bob Burgers. Bob's Burgers, I think, is up there for me. I'm going to say One Piece, which is an anime that I love so much. Near and dear to my heart. It's about pirates.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
It's about Luffy D. Monkey, the young boy who wants to become the pirate king. And he eats a demon fruit and it allows him to stretch. And he gets really, really long. It's very, very strange. And it is full of heart. The show is about overcoming problems. It's absolutely wonderful. And I cry every time I watch it because it's got so much heart in it. It's really good. It's really, really good.
Maybe.
What else for TV shows? Probably Batman the Animated Series. Perfect Batman right there.
Classic stuff.
Classic stuff. There's got to be some more here. Good golly, what are some other weird ones that I watch?
Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law.
Oh, Harvey Birdman's so fucking good. Yes.
Yeah, so good.
Harvey Birdman's so good. I'd probably say Space Ghost is up there, even though I don't know if Space Ghost technically is like a cartoon show.
It's animated-ish.
It's animated-ish. And then I'd say DuckTales. I love DuckTales. I love DuckTales. I love the old DuckTales. I love the new DuckTales. It's great. Really, really great. Oh, Avatar's up there. Oh, Avatar's so good too. Damn. Yeah, that's a big question, right? You can just think about that all night.
There are a lot, yeah.
It's a lot of good stuff. I'm going to have to look up the show that Aerith mentioned.
Batman Beyond was also great.
Oh, Batman was fantastic.
Super weird.
Right,
Super
yeah.
weird stuff.
All right, Brad, you got a question for me?
Let's see. If you could have a TV show come back that has ended, what would you bring back from the life? Bring back from...
Gosh, what would I bring back to life? I would have said Twin Peaks, but they brought it back to life, and it was just as weird as I wanted it to be and needed it to be. God, what's a show that I would love to see come back? I probably would have said, I mean, it's so tough because I would have said, Arrested Development, which is a show I really love, and then they brought it back, and it's really terrible.
Yeah,
it's not terrible. It just doesn't have the same bite to it in some ways.
When they have to have everyone film their scenes individually and splice it together, it's not great for comedy.
Yeah, it just doesn't work, right? It's so clear that it's like everyone's too busy. Where it's like, don't make the show if you're too busy, right? I get it. This is going to be controversial. I'm going to say a controversial thing.
Okay.
The person I'm going to say is someone who I have lost all respect for, right? But I still think I would love to see what he would do with his show coming back after him being canceled. I would love to see what Louis C.K. would do with his show, after all the shit that happened to him, right? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, I loved that show and then was so grossed out by all the stories that happened to be like, great, that show, I can't watch that show anymore, right? Same reason I can't watch Woody Allen movies anymore. I'm like, nope, I'm done with this stuff. Can't support that stuff. The creator and the art are too connected. And I hated it because I loved Louis as the show so much. It was so good. It was so human. It was so fucking weird. I loved it so much. So I guess that would be a show I would love to see if he could come back and make a show about what his experience was like getting canceled.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say.
That would be an interesting thing to explore. I don't know how enjoyable that would be, but it would be super interesting.
Yeah, I get that's the thing. I just think it would be really interesting to explore that. And if anybody could, I think he could. But the problem would be is there'd be another controversy that would come out of it, and he would, inevitably we'd learn another deep, crazy secret that he likes, peeing in dogs' buttholes or something, and it would just be like, God damn it, Louis, why are you such a fucking weirdo? Why can't you just be ugh? So yeah. Or maybe it's a show where people just throw trash at him. And that's what the show is.
Sure.
It's 8 episodes of people throwing trash at him in the stockades in Central Park, right?
Sure. They fund it on Kickstarter. Like, how much stuff do you want to throw at Louis C.K. and that's how much money you give them?
Right, that's the show. That's the show, right? And it's just him getting hit with fucking, dirty potatoes and fucking lettuce, and it's just like the middle of the night he's asleep and someone puts a fucking nasty fucking, New York City cop horse turd pie right in his face, and he's just like, like that's the show. Like that would be the show.
That would be very strange.
I'm glad Aerith called it. She totally called
she did.
She did.
For sure.
We're calling it Louis. I can tell what Kellen's going to say. I bet Kellen listens to Joe Rogan and totally agrees with the point that Joe Rogan made this week. No.
I certainly hope not.
Hope not.
Kellen, this is going to change a lot of things.
Fuck Joe Rogan. Fuck Joe Rogan and everything else.
That's what I thought.
Yes. The only good thing that Joe Rogan has ever done has been news radio. A great television program that ended, that should have been canceled the moment Phil Hartman died. But instead, they brought John Lovitz in to try and fill Phil Hartman's shoes, and it failed miserably.
So weird. That show was so good, it made me tolerate watching Andy Dick.
Which is saying a lot.
He is aggravating.
I've met
in
Andy a
every
couple
way.
times. He is the same way in person. He is a
That makes sense.
unforgivable asshole in all senses of the word. He's the sort of person who will pull down your pants at a funeral to make himself laugh. He is just the most awful human being. And they gave him a show.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. News radio is so damn good that I even got past the fact that Andy Dick was on.
All right.
But it did not survive Phil Hartman's death, in my opinion.
Phil Hartman died. That show could have been like, great, we're done.
Yep.
Brad, are there any good shows about cops? Can you name a good show about cops?
Brooklyn Nine-Nine comes close.
No, that show is
still bad.
It's bad. That show is bad. That show makes cops be like, man, cops are just like us. Man, aren't cops silly? Isn't it great how cops can abuse the law? Right? Brooklyn Nine-Nine fucking show bothers me so much.
As it should. But yeah, I think that might come the closest in my opinion. I don't know. It's still bad.
I mean, I feel like The Wire is the only show about cops where I'm like, yep, they got it. They got it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, Batman, the animated series, all the cops are useless.
Oh, there you go. Yep. Okay, Brian.
Yeah, all cops in TV is a very problematic thing.
I mean, I used to watch, again, I grew up on Nick at Night, so I'd watch old versions of Dragnet, right? But those police officers that were on Dragnet, like, were the weirdest cartoon characters ever. And I remember watching that show and being like, man, what is up with these guys? These guys are so weird.
You want to get political?
That's another episode.
That's a separate show.
It's a separate show where Brad and Kellen talk about
a very special episode. Kellen and Brad talk about being extremely political.
Yeah, exactly. Dismantling the societal structure that keeps many people in bondage. And how do they feel about it? Oh boy. Yeah.
Another one, maybe Burn Notice, because literally every law enforcement person on the show is either corrupt, straight up evil, or like fighting against all the corruption and losing because the entire system is built around corruption.
Yeah, Burn Notice is a fun show. My buddy Danny, who I went to college with, wrote on that show. He's one of the head writers on that show. That was a very, very fun show. And then another great Bruce Campbell vehicle. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And all of the moral people are criminals.
Mm-hmm. There's a
there might be one CIA agent that's good that dies, but yeah. That was a fun show. I enjoyed Burn Notice quite a bit. It was very silly.
There's a British TV show about thieves. What is it? That the whole premise is like, oh yeah.
Same deal. To maybe slightly less degree in some ways, but yeah, very similar situation.
Well, I mean the police especially in the East are so like fucking, putting the boots on the indigenous people out there too.
Yeah,
it's bad.
It's a big problem. It's not great.
All right. Well, we'll talk about TV. Yeah. We got to talk about TV, Brad. We got to stay focused. Trust me, you and I, we can get pulled into this, and then suddenly we're going to talk about the church, and then the whole thing.
That'll be next week.
Next week. Yeah, next week.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned, folks, where we start to dismantle the church. Okay, Brad. Brad, give me the worst television program in your opinion.
The worst.
The most unforgivable television program in your opinion.
I can't pick Big Bang Theory.
You cannot. You
Okay.
cannot, because we're doing a podcast about watching all the Big Bang Theory, and yes, we agree that the show is bad. But is it the worst? We cannot tell until we've seen all 247 episodes.
Sure. The worst
television show. And you can also talk about reality television. We haven't talked about reality television. We've only been talking about scripted television so far.
Yeah, if we're gonna do that, probably like Big Brother. That kind of
Yeah,
thing.
Big Brother's pretty bad, right?
Just terrible nonsense. All of the drama is completely fabricated in editing, and it's.
Yeah, how do you feel about reality television show, Brad? I mean, are there any reality TV shows, like a cooking show, like a talent show that you enjoy watching?
Not really.
Yeah.
I think the last reality show that I enjoyed is probably The Mole.
Oh, The Mole was a fun show. The Mole was
it had a semi-interesting premise, at least. So there was like something to pay attention for.
I don't know why The Mole didn't come back. I thought The Mole was actually very, very fun.
Yeah, I don't really watch a lot of reality TV.
Yeah. What about like talk shows, like a late night talk show? Do you watch it? Do you watch anything like that? Are there late night talk shows in Canada? That's a very dumb question.
there are some. I used to, when it was on the air. I don't think he's been on the air for quite some time. Ed the Sock. I don't know if you've heard of.
Sorry, what?
Ed the Sock.
Ed the Sock. No, I don't.
There's a Canadian comedian who uses a sock puppet and had a talk show for quite some time.
Ed the Sock.
Yeah.
This was a show for adults?
Yes. Very, very much so. Very, very profane. Think Triumph, the insult comic dog, but as a sock puppet doing a talk show, essentially.
This is not what I was expecting. This sock puppet has a cigar in his mouth.
Yes.
Has green hair.
Yes.
Looks to be like a red t-shirt and some sort of Hawaiian shirt on. This is a very strange.
It was super weird. Even back then, it was super, super weird.
This is a. Now, did Ed's mouth move, or was it just like?
No, basically just wiggling. And every once in a while, the cigar would fall out, and he would have to pick it up. And so.
That is very, very weird. Yeah. That is very, very weird.
It was very funny.
Ed
opinion, as a teenager, I found it very funny.
Oh boy. What about Tom Green? Did you like Tom Green growing up?
Nah, never really got into Tom Green.
Yeah.
Just gross for the sake of being gross. I don't know. It's just never.
It always felt like Tom should have made himself the butt of the joke, but it never was, right? Like, I would agree with Aerith Girl. I think all the housewife shows are pretty trash, but sometimes I like the taste of trash. And I
don't think I've seen a single episode of any of the housewife shows.
It is like watching wrestling, right? If you're just watching one episode, it doesn't make any sense. But if you start to watch it like a serial, suddenly it is the same thing as like watching a pay-per-view. You start to understand a little bit more why people watch it. Like it is the people on the show know exactly. And again, Andy Cohen, who produces the housewife shows, knows what he's doing. He's a major manipulator. He's a total asshole, but he knows exactly what he's doing. He puts these people on these shows and they become these cartoon characters, these commedia dell'arte versions of themselves. It's hilarious. So, Vanderpump Rules is
I don't have
spectacular.
any idea what that is.
Aerith Girl and I are going to have a show where we talk about anime and we talk about Vanderpump Rules and when we talk about being parents, and it's going to be over the top and wonderful. So
excellent! I can't wait to watch it.
Lay one on me, Brad. Give me a good juicy one to take us out on tonight.
A good juicy.
Give me a controversial question. Give me something. Give me something big. Let's find something.
Something big.
I don't know. You got a bunch of little ones?
I mean, what's a show maybe that you think you could love if it wasn't for one of the characters?
Oh, that's a good question. Golly gee, Brad, what's a show that I could love? So that means it's a show that I don't enjoy right now. Okay.
Sure.
I think if you take Rick out of The Walking Dead, it's a better show. I know it's a different show from the comic book, and the comic book is very, very different from the show. So I think if you're going to write a different show, just take Rick out of The Walking Dead, and it becomes a much, much better show. I think I would like a lot more if Rick wasn't in the show, because I think Rick in the comic and Rick in the show are very, very different. So take him out, it becomes a better show. Take Carrie out of Sex and the City, becomes a much, much better show. Carrie Bradshaw is one of the most awful human beings ever conceived. She is so selfish. She's so mean. She is so just rude. You take her out of that show, and all the rest of the characters, Miranda, Charlotte, and Samantha, are in fact really interesting characters to watch on their own, and they in fact have much better experiences. But Carrie Bradshaw, if Sex and the City was Breaking Bad, right? Here we go, Brad. If Sex and the City was about Carrie Bradshaw becoming this awful person, then it would be a much better show. But the problem with Sex and the City is Carrie Bradshaw is the hero of that show, and nobody realizes that she's in fact the villain. That she makes all these stupid choices, and it's just like so awful. And yet Samantha becomes a better person. Charlotte becomes a better person. Miranda becomes a better person. What does Carrie Bradshaw do? She keeps breaking men's hearts. She keeps having her own heart broken. And who does she end up with? The worst human being for her. And she continues to spiral and spiral. Sex and the City should have ended with Carrie Bradshaw moving away, like moved to LA, and should have been that show, right? If Sex and the City ended, and then the next,
you're saying give it the Joey treatment,
give it the Joey treatment, it would have been
send
great.
Her to LA,
send her to LA. She would have been fantastic in LA. So, yeah, those are probably the shows that I don't enjoy much. I still think Breaking Bad. Excuse me. I still think Walking Dead has a lot of good elements, and there's some really fantastic characters in there. And it gets better towards the middle parts of some of the seasons. Yeah. What about you, Brad? What do you think?
Probably like How I Met Your Mother. Just get rid of Ted completely.
Oh, yes.
He's so annoying and pointless.
He's the most pointless. Oh God, right? So good, Brad.
That would be the Office without Steve Carell. Would be
yes.
Nice.
Same thing with Eric Girl. Said, let's have Girls without Lena. Yes, let's get Lena out. Okay. Lena's the worst part about Girls.
That's another thing I haven't seen, so take your word for it.
It is, I think, worth watching just for young Adam Driver. He's so good. He's so good in that show. And the rest of the characters are really good. You can see David Mamet's daughter be insufferable, and it's great. Oh, so good.
The Tonight Show, but just get rid of Jimmy Fallon. Give it back to Conan.
Yeah, but I also think, I'll say this. I think Conan has his own issues, right? If Conan was so good, then Conan would have been good anywhere, right? Like the reason why his show didn't work is like Conan is a late night guy. Right? Like he couldn't make the transition. And I think also Conan also is a real asshole, right? I think he's just sort of a jerk and wasn't willing to play ball with people and, like just kind of wanted to keep being his weird late night self. And that's not what the Tonight Show is. I don't enjoy Jimmy Fallon on that show. And I actually think, Conan would have done much better had NBC just trusted him, but that's not what they're interested in doing. They're interested in selling ad time because that's what TV is for. It's about selling products. And
Right.
People were tuning out of Conan because he couldn't do Masturbating Bear or FedEx Pope, right? Like that's why people tuned into Conan, because they wanted to see weird stuff. They should have kept him on late night, right?
I'm not saying it would be more successful. I'm just saying I would enjoy it more.
Oh, you would love it. You would absolutely love it. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, it would absolutely have tanked anyway. It doesn't.
No.
That's not going to change, unfortunately.
No. So, yeah, man, Conan's such a weird guy. I mean, late night in general, talk shows are so weird. I mean, I honestly think in our lifetime we will see the end of late night talk shows, right? Like, I just don't know if they're going to be a thing. I think Craig Ferguson's late night show was the only late night show that I would watch consistently because it was so good. It was so weird. It was pretentious in the perfect way possible. It was great. It was like, this is exactly what a late night should be, right? It should be fucking weird where I tune in and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to watch. And people have a great time on it. People are having a blast, right? That's what it should be. Not like, all right, well, we're going to do TikToks tonight on we're going to eat some Fruit Loops with Carly D'Amelio or whatever the fuck her name is. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. We need Alf to come back and do his late night show again.
Oh my God.
That's
Alf's late night show was fantastic, right?
So dumb.
So dumb.
Like, entertaining because nobody cared.
Nobody cares. It's like, this is a fucking puppet, right? What is this?
That's probably why Ed the Sock survived so long, because he pretended to be a puppet, and so he got away with all kinds of nonsense
types of shit
that you wouldn't normally be able to get away with.
Brad, I got a question for you. Here's my last question for you.
Oh, okay.
Are there some shows that you would recommend to me? Shows that you know that I haven't watched that you would say, Kellen, you need to watch this show.
That I know you haven't watched. That's tricky because we seem to have very similar taste in weird, obscure shows that no one else has watched.
Yeah. Like I would be like, oh, Brett, you should watch Black Books, which is a great BBC show about a struggling bookstore, right?
It's a great show.
It's a great show. Dylan Morton, he's hilarious in that show.
So good, especially the absurdist nonsense parts where the guy like eats part of a book or something, absorbs the information.
It's so
I can't even remember. It doesn't make any sense.
Good.
Such a good show.
Yeah.
You've probably seen Wellington Paranormal.
I've not seen Wellington Paranormal.
Okay, then you need to watch Wellington Paranormal.
Wellington Paranormal. Okay.
Have you seen What We Do in the Shadows?
I love What We Do in the Shadows.
Okay, so same idea, except it's a police procedural.
Oh, this is great.
It's so good.
Fucking New Zealand, man. It's
coming back for a new season too, finally. I think it's been like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, it's coming up soon.
It's finally coming back for a 3rd season.
Fucking New Zealand, man. They make great stuff.
They do. What about you? What would you recommend to me?
It's probably going to be a bunch of anime, honestly. It's going to be
okay.
Brad, you should watch what's a show you should watch, Brad? Have you watched Fargo yet?
I have seen Fargo, yes.
Okay, so Fargo is really good. Fargo's really, really good. I'll say Girls. You should watch Girls. I think Girls is worth watching. Is there another HBO show that I've watched recently that was good? Brad, have you watched Neon Genesis Evangelion?
I don't think so.
Then, Brad, that's the show that I think you should watch.
Okay,
I think you should watch that extremely complicated, at times difficult show about what does it mean to be human, about giant robots fighting angels.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I'm going to give you another recommendation for a show that, basically the same, called God, the Devil, and Bob.
God, the Devil, and Bob. I believe I've heard of that show, but I don't know if I've watched it.
So good. I don't even know if it lasted a full season, but it's so good.
Okay, I'll watch God, the Devil, and Bob. Is French Stewart's in it? Oh my god!
Yeah.
There we
As
go.
a voice, I mean, it's animated.
Yeah, it's animated. Yeah. Brad, did you ever watch Good Omens?
Yes.
Good Omens was so good. So good. So good. Aaron said Ted Lasso. I hear great things about Ted Lasso, but I'm not willing to pay for Apple Plus or Apple TV for that show, right?
Ted Lasso, yeah. I haven't seen it.
Now I hear very, very good shit.
Don't start him there.
Don't start him in Neon Genesis. What are you talking about? Okay, let's push him in the deep end.
Fine.
I would say, Brad, if you wanted to get into anime, I think here's the question, Brad. Are you interested in, if you were to watch an anime show, would you rather watch something that is about today? Would you rather watch something that's about the fantasy? Would you rather watch something that's about the future?
I would say the future, probably.
Okay. My Hero Academia is a fantastic show about superheroes in high school. Like, all right, like how do someone get heroes? Like, how does people become heroes? And about a young boy, Izuku Midoriya, who doesn't have superhero powers, right? The entire population of the Earth has superhero powers. So like 80% have powers, and he's one who doesn't have powers, and he still wants to be a hero. And how does he become a hero? It's great. It's really, really good. A lot of heart. Good show to watch with your kid as well. Kind of about the future. And then, you can always go watch any Gundam show. Like, you don't have to watch watch this show. Just watch Gundam. Like, what's a Gundam show? It's about mechs. It's going to be great. That's going to be fantastic. Golly. Oh, you can be Cowboy Bebop's fantastic as well.
Cowboy Bebop I've seen, yes.
It's so perfect. Stuff. It's so perfect. It's funny. I don't think about Cowboy Bebop as television. I think about it as it's like a movie.
It's a thing.
Yeah, it's so good. Brad, as always, our time has come to an end. It just flies by.
This has been great.
This has been a blast. I'm so glad that we got to sit here and talk about TV. I hope everyone else who's been watching us has enjoyed this show, and goes and thinks about TV programs with a little bit of heart that way. Samurai Champloo, that's another great one. God, that's so good.
I've seen that one too.
That's another good one, right? That's another great one. Afro Samurai, another great one. Brad, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for talking to me. Thank you so much for wanting to talk about TV. This is so good.
I don't know what we'll talk about next week, but I guess we'll find out.
I think we'll probably talk about some stuff. And no matter what,
probably some stuff.
Some stuff will probably be talked about. So,
see you next week.
Bye, Brad.